right? So what's more of a divine command? You being black or you being Christian? And here's where I get upset, right? Because we talk about how, I don't want to be a part of this black cultural movement, this, that, and the third, and all these different things, and I want to explore my own experience as a black person, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you go to church, black church, and then there's white Jesus all over the wall, right? And then you talk to black people and be like, what color is God? Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color God is, right? But it does matter if you are a woman or a man of the cloth. How does that not matter to your book?
Because
in the Bible,
let
me ask you something. In the Bible, let me finish this off with this, right? Okay. In the Bible, is Jesus, is his appearance in the Bible?
I believe they describe him with like
feet were bronze and hair was, yeah.
His feet was black as brass and his hair was that of wool. James Harden? James Harden? LeBron? What? James Harden is in the Bible?
The churches help black people more than the government.
Shit. Equally fucked.
You hesitate a little bit.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's like a two-headed sword, right? Because church is someplace that we can go, gather. It is very helpful to the community in the sense of we can be there together. We can have conversations with one another. At one point during slavery, it may be the only place you can see your family or connect with one another. A lot of churches can help build different programs within the community. But I think, again, it comes back to that word of like wanting to assemble someplace, wanting to be with people that look like you. And a lot of the church movement did have to force the government's hand of like, all right, we need civil rights. So that was kind of birthed and, pushed through in that way. So no, I don't trust the government, and I don't think the government is here to help black people. I don't think the government is here to help really any poor people. And a lot of black people, unfortunately, are disenfranchised, so.
This is interesting that all the atheists step forward.
So I go back to history after slavery and Reconstruction, right? So after slavery, there were blacks in Congress. There was black progress. However, once Reconstruction ended, and there were racist people that were brought in power to disfranchise black folks, there were many churches in the religious community that helped support in times when, black folks couldn't get good jobs, who could not get, a good education, even though there were historically black colleges and universities. I do tend to give the church its credit at times. And again, that doesn't mean, the black church gets to define the black community in its entirety and that it should define all of us that way. But we have to give credit historically where it's due.
The U.S. government has had a lot of policies to keep African Americans down for the past, ever since after slavery and even before. So we also had redlining, which kept black communities poor and away from certain jobs in the inner city, white flight, all these things, were perpetrated and supported by the U.S. government in every single major city in the United States. But the one place where black people we can come and congregate was the church. It was kind of a de facto
and
place.
Get information.
And get information.
Yes.
So my question to all of you guys as atheists who stood up for this one is, do you guys view it as more of a lesser than two evil situation where you guys just really distrust the government? So why you guys have created this prompt? How would you answer that?
See, even the way that you worded the question, the lesser of two evils, because evil is a word that gets really
I meant that in just like a phrase.
No, I know, but I'm just saying the underlying tones of just like the American community, and therefore it's projecting its domination throughout the world. Right?
Let's say the lesser of two entities in this instance.
Sure.
The church itself, it's about what it doesn't do. It's not about how it hurts the community. It's about what it doesn't do, not what it does do, right? So I think that with the government, for every new deal that you get a war on drugs. For every welfare system that's implemented, we get cracks and gun in our community.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe that when it comes, I believe that the black church historically has given us jobs, organized our movements. Without the black church, we would not be here today. Let's get that straight. Right. They were very important, but today they don't have the same value historically. And the government, just after the George Floyd protests, the two major bills that were passed, even though they passed 1,000 oversight bills for police brutality, the main bills that they passed was, I believe, an Asian hate bill and an LGBTQ hate bill. So I don't think that the government is necessarily, I believe that it's too overstretched.
And also, let's take it to the reparations discussion.
Yeah.
About how there were supposed to be reparations after slavery.
I still want my
40 acres and a mule.
40 acres and a mule.
Give me my 40 acres and a mule.
And that was thwarted through the U.S. government. So we can definitely even point to that. And we are still having this discourse about reparations and economic justice that we shouldn't be having now.
Yeah.
That the federal government could have resolved a long time ago.
And still could.
Let's hold. Let's bring the disagreeers. Would anyone like to start?
Yeah, I'm a little bit neutral when it comes to this standpoint because I feel that there was a lot of redlining. You brought up such a great point. When I was exposed to the amount of redlining that the government had imposed on Black communities, minority communities, especially what's happening up in San Francisco right now, up in New York, it was bizarre. And that had pushed a lot of Christian churches, a lot of churches in general, to open up assistant living, open up food shelters and home shelters for assisting in people that the government wasn't doing. But at the same time, the church was also pushing this on the government, on their local legislators and their mayors to also make movements and propositions to do that. So it's kind of like this fine line between both. I don't trust the government. I don't trust also completely like people who run the church because they're not all good people. They're not all good people who we elect as well into our branches and legislator governments and stuff. So there's just this neutrality that I'm sit between with because is it really going to benefit, or are these just propositions to just temporarily save someone's butt and then go on to the next and then just continue to like put the Band-Aid on the big scar?
And I ask myself, why didn't I walk up in favor of the church doing more? And at the risk of giving any ammo for the other side, no, at the risk, I think I look at the church with a very critical eye. I think that I'm troubled by what we do and what we don't do. I'm troubled by how we do some of the stuff that we do, and we miss the bigger pictures, right? And so for that reason, I had to just hold back and say, I don't think that we're doing all that we should be doing.
Sorry to interrupt, but what are some specific examples of that?
I think that we've gotten into this Western world mentality where church now is gimmicky. I think that it's about becoming so seeker-friendly. And we play to certain audiences, we play to certain things. We code switch organizationally, if you could believe that. You can have a church over here where everybody is praying for healing, but everybody's broke. This church over here is a church of prosperity. This church over here is a church of tongue talking. So you've got these different characteristics that if there's no balanced theological view of it. And so I think the church runs the risk of showing up impotent in some of the conversations that we need to have.
How much money does your church make a year? This is important. How much money does your church make a year?
I don't have that number at the top of my mind. I wasn't coming here to talk about the budget.
Okay. That's very important. The reason why I bring it up is because we're talking about what the Black community, what the Black church does for the community, right? And if you are taking money from the Black participants who go to your church, you should know how much money you're taking from the community, especially since the community isn't financially stable.
Yeah.
But also churches that make over $100,000 per year should do exactly what the Black church used to do during the Civil Rights era.
I think that's a harsh criticism. I think it's a huge assumption.
Wait, hold on.
So churches that do make over $150,000 a year, they need to invest that money in the Black institutions.
With all due respect,
Wait.
$150,000.
I do want to hear from the response. How would you respond?
You can start a bank with that.
How would you respond?
I think we have to be careful about drawing assumptions of what churches do. I was making a very broad commentary about how I see churches behave, but don't get me wrong, there are a lot of churches that are doing exactly what you just said they should be doing.
Turkeys and shoes aren't enough for our community.
Well, see, I can't get into that part of it because turkeys and shoes are not the conversation I'm having. I'm having a conversation about a methodology to reach a people and be a service to a community. I'm talking about down payment assistance so that Black folks can own homes. I'm talking about doing financial stewardship education courses. I'm talking about, counseling and support systems for family and standing in the gap for mothers with the single mothers with children and making sure that they have mentors for their sons and their daughters. I'm talking about programs that actually affect folks' lives. But meanwhile, you're on a different page, and I get that. But I wouldn't brush that very broad because there are a lot of ministries that are doing it. What I'm looking at is the impact of the way this division amongst the body of Christ actually shows up in the world. I think it shows up a little bit less impotent than it should. And on behalf of the body of Christ, I apologize if you've seen that more than you've seen the effective work.
Is that fair?
No, it's not fair. And once again, when you dive into this with Christians, I often feel that there's this neglect for politics. Jesus was a fighter. Jesus was a fighter. He was not
anti-capitalist.
He was not pacifist. He was anti-capitalist, right? So all what you're saying is very good, and I respect the fact that you are a leader, right? And that you do own your own black church, right? But there needs to be more. I don't want you just meeting with mothers, right? If my grandma is funding her own displacement every single time she donates to the church, and they put their money at Chase Bank.
Yeah.
You understand that, right?
I guess, like, what specifically would you like?
What's the more that you're looking for within the churches for the black community?
I need the church to put their race. I need all black Christians to put their race either on the same level or above Christianity politically, not socially. Politically,
yeah,
right? We need to, as a pastor, you need to preach that the church needs institutions. Otherwise, every single time that our grandmas go and pay tithes, they are funding their own displacement.
How is that better than white supremacy, though, if you're asking us to be supremacists about being black people?
Who said anything?
Well, you brought up white supremacy.
Do you know what supremacy entails?
Yes, I know what you're about to say. I know what you're about to say. However, you have brought up white supremacy several times, but now you're saying put your blackness above everything. Black is the only way to think about, and that is a supremacy in and of itself. Which I can respect your opinion on that, but I don't operate just because of my blackness. There's so much more to me as a human, a woman, and other things. An American, like there are things that are intersectional about me as a person in this world. That's not just everything has to be about my race. And I have a problem with that. Just that thought in general, that everything must be seen through the eyes of being black, and if you don't, you get your black card.
Well, I think what he's trying to say.
Let me answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I never told you to use your blackness to make anybody else feel inferior by the way of their race. So no, I'm not spreading black supremacy, and I find it often that racist white people and black people in the church love to call me racist, bro.
I'm not even.
Love to call me racist and a supremacist.
I'm not the church, though. That's the thing. I'm not the church in the way that you're trying to label me.
Let him clarify.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that if you are a part of the Black Power movement and if you are conscious of what goes on in the black community, then there is no way in hell that you will put being gay over being black, you will put being a Christian over being black, you will put being a woman over being black. You can get disabled. You can get disabled. But that's about it. That's about it. There is no reason in the world.
Whose entire identity is on their sexuality and being gay as well. So what about that?
The reason
you don't have
why,
a problem with that because if they're not Christian, then it's okay to be gay and black, right?
It depends on how you align yourself politically. I just said you guys can be Christian. You guys can be Christian, but you need to prioritize blackness.
Isn't our existence more than our political stance?
That's force-fed to you, brother, to be
No. It's my belief. It's well thought out. I believe that who I am as a person is very much more broader than what you're describing I should be. Right? I think that I just do. Now, am I for the cause and the advancement of black folks? Absolutely.
How?
Globally.
How?
I'm not here to prove my blackness to you. I'm here to talk about, I'm talking about the difference, the chasm between you and I with a belief system. And what I'm saying is, while I respect you, you got to respect me for this conversation to be fluid.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I'm not challenging you or diminishing what you believe. I'm listening to you and I understand your come from. But the only way we experience another culture is that we explore our commonalities. So I get your passion. I get your passion, and I definitely do the work in our community. And if you're suggesting that we should probably do other work, then let's have that conversation, because having a conversation that makes me feel like I need to surrender my black card is a conversation that gives us more of a chasm, so we never get there together.
Why in the face of pro-blackness, everyone else's blackness feels diminished? That's insane to me.
No, because
what I'm saying is that a portion...
Ooh, a word. A word, because this is a lot to unpack. And as I'm just sitting back listening, I'm like, I feel like I still agree with my man over here in the yellow shirt. This is such a huge fucking topic. I feel like a lot of things go hand in hand that the black Christians don't want to take accountability for. And like he was just saying, by being pro-black, it should not diminish other people's blackness by saying, I'm going to hold you accountable. Just because he wants them to explain certain things, it's like, it's not for them, the black Christians, to get offended, but it is to say, I need some answers that you guys are trying to dodge. And no, they didn't come here to talk about the budget of the church. But I feel like there is some stuff that goes hand in hand. When you do talk about these conversations, it does go into, that's what I'm saying, like, it's not to say we came here to talk about the budget. But sometimes I'm like, give a rough estimate, per se. And it's like, that can go into the conversation of what I'm trying to get to, but it's like, yeah, that y'all want to talk about, okay, well, now I feel kind of offended because you want to talk about the budget and what we do for the church. And although you do what you do for the church, that's just it. It's not the time to be offended. And I feel like that's where it goes, because these conversations, they don't have to be so personal, and I get that, like, okay, what's your church's budget? But it is sometimes, you know, if we're going into the conversation, for the lack of better terms, okay, how much does your church, you know, I'm like, okay, we can use a random number. Give me a ballpark number for anybody else's church, so you don't feel personally offended. But I'm like, the church does not step up enough for what they need to do for the black community, and that is true. And it's not to revoke their black card, but it is to shed light that it's a lot of things going under the radar with the black church. It is. And I feel like that's the basis of what he's saying. The black church does not do enough. They don't. And they don't. They want to do more, like he was saying, rattling off all that stuff. And I was just like, okay, it sounds good, brother, but we don't need you to just come out here and talk to these single mothers that don't have it. It's a lot of stuff that we're not doing. And like I was saying before, it ties in to the fact that all the dipping and dodging and the questions that don't get answered because people get offended. And it's hard to get to that point. My man was saying, okay, we need to talk about our commonalities. But in the same sense, I feel like he's the first to get offended while the other guy was trying to reach that commonality of understanding from his point. You know what I mean? He was trying to get to a point, but before we can get to that, they get offended and then say, okay, well, and again, I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone, but this has been from my personal experience. This is not to attack black Christians, but from my experience, this has been the same thing I've witnessed, is like, okay, now I'm getting offended because this is just something I don't agree with, or I don't want to have to own up to what I contribute to that's wrong in our black community. And it's like they feel attacked more so than saying, okay, I get that, I understand that. That definitely is a fact that we need to take in and make adjustments to.
A portion of your energy and time needs to politically go into black institutions and black politics in order for us to get a foothold in the
Says you. You're not an authority for me. You're not an authority,
my brother. Says
black folks.
Science.
No. Political science is my
Let's take a
authority.
step back, because I think we're getting too wrapped up actually in the black part of it right now. And I think ultimately I understand a lot of what you're saying. And you're specifically talking about capitalism, right?
No.
And how it affects black people in the world. No. Okay. So you are talking about putting blackness above everything else politically.
Do you guys feel like black people and Africans are oppressed globally?
Yeah.
And in America?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we all have that common belief, right? So systemically, right? The only way for us to beat systemic racism is for us to get institutions of our own, right? The only way for us to get out of this oppression, right, is for us to stop playing around with everyone else's beliefs and ideologies and focus on an Afrocentric belief. That's what I'm saying.
Agreed.
You guys can do whatever you want.
Agreed.
Love everyone. Be whatever type of intersectionality that you would like to be, right? But if you support Israel and Gaza, if you're putting that on your story, then I need you to put the Congo on there as well.
Yeah.
I need you to put India on there as
Do you know
well.
how many black Catholics are being murdered by other black Africans in Nigeria right now?
Thank you. So let's talk about that.
But you haven't said anything about this. It's all about what's going on in the blackness. You're assuming that we don't think about these things. I think about these things. I know, I'm highly aware of them. I'm highly sensitive. So it's not fair for you to say that just because we're black Christians or we're black American Christians or whatever, that we don't think about these things. We do. We might see things in a different way or a different, way of solution. But it doesn't mean that we're not there. We don't think it's important.
I just feel as black people in our community, we put an overly emphasis on Jesus and on the church. And in a lot of poor black communities, you'll see a bunch of churches. But you know what you won't see? You won't see a bank. You won't see a hospital.
Store.
You won't even see a grocery store with like good food. You know,
And
you go
this is
to a
what
liquor
he was
store or
saying.
something, there's an era behind the liquor store. There's
Yeah.
people that don't look like us. These are issues that aren't even addressed by the church. It's like
They don't even
sometimes I
address
feel
it. That's-
I go to a church, they don't even care sometimes.
This is what my man
You know, they
said.
just want more members. You know, and as a person who grew up in a black community and grew up in a black church, I understood these problems even when I was young. You know, so these are problems that us as black people need to come together and figure out and stop building so many churches in our communities. How many Ebenezer Baptist churches are there?
Right.
You know what
And
I'm
come on,
saying? You
because
don't need that.
you need, if you're going to walk as Christians and have the black church, we should be helping the poor. We should be helping the orphans. We should be helping the widow. We should be helping the single mothers. We should be helping the disenfranchised. And that is a part of Christianity. And the fact that that is not happening, I totally agree that is a problem. So we are absolutely on the same page about that.
I've considered exploring other.
My man's been trying to say that. he's I don't know if he's the best with his words, but my man in the blue shirt just summed up everything the guy was saying. That is exactly what he's been saying the whole time, is that it's not that the black Christians don't know what's going on. It's not that they're unaware, but it's that when you're in church, like my man is saying, these are not problems that the church is focused on. They're focused on just God. All they want to do is recruit. But I'm like, they're so far into heaven, it's like they're not here sometimes. It's like they're not down here to say, we don't own shit. You know what I'm saying? We don't own shit. And it's like, we don't have any banks. Like he was saying, we don't have any grocery stores. There's so much going on that I feel like they just want to talk about Jesus, that we're not talking about enough about why we're the biggest consumers, but we don't own shit. And I'm like, for a church to be so wrapped up into helping, that's I feel like that's the problem. It's because they have that mentality of, it's like the old churchy times, like doing the missionaries. Like when I was talking about being younger, I was in the missionaries, and we would go and do the soup kitchen and help these people and pray with these people. And I'm like, okay, we can pray, but at some point it's like we need more action. And the black church is just wanting to talk about Jesus. Like my man was saying, like, as a whole, since the George Floyd thing, I was saying this when George Floyd, like, I remember clear as day because it was so big, like, I can't forget it. I don't think anyone can. But I was saying, what are we going to do as a whole now that this George Floyd thing has happened? Like, what action is going to be taking place? Now that we've had every march in every city that could be possibly made, what are we going to do as far as action? There's not enough movement going around. Black people don't have enough motion when it comes to things that need to get done. When it comes to moving as one, we too wrapped up in talking about stuff that we've been talking about that ain't got us, that ain't really got us damn near nowhere. We need to be talking about bigger and more important issues that can move us as a whole, and we're still sitting here talking about recruiting people to get more members to the church, like he said, of Ebenezer. And I'm like, what is Ebenezer doing for it's like the churches think it's so small. And like I said, it's because these scriptures are feeding a lot of the stuff of turning the other cheek, and they don't want to take accountability. And I feel like the Bible is one reason why Christians do not want to take accountability, that they're thinking on a minuscule level sometimes, and it has to be addressed. That is what it is, and we need to come together to think about bigger issues. And this is a reason why we can't move. But it's so much emotion behind this topic that it seems like we never get to common ground. And this is why I feel like we're moving at the pace we are. And I believe that Christianity has had a hold on us for so long. It is fucking with our mentalities of the way we're thinking. We're sitting here caught up in all these small ass talks And we can't even get people to understand so much more that's out there. Like, honestly, even these conversations, I feel like they need to be deeper. I feel like I would love for these conversations to be a little bit deeper still, like I said, so we can just get to the nitty gritty of why you believe in the Bible. You know, I love those conversations, but I feel like sometimes when you get to the basis of that, it kills off room for all the other shit to enter the room. It's like we don't need to have this talk anymore if we can get to the conclusion of this. If we can get to the end of, or common agreement, we can get to common agreement of why the Bible is not suitable for black people. Some people, don't want to, but if we could sit down and talk about it for real, of how it's a direct copy of African work, some of these other conversations we wouldn't even need to have. We wouldn't even need to have them because there's no room for them anymore. We don't even have to. We can skip over a lot of stuff if we can get to the basis that the Bible's a direct replica. TikTok is giving y'all asses to work now. It's like you don't even need to start laying out a whole bunch of references because TikTok is on everybody's ass now. You look at one thing about, type in how the Bible's a replica on TikTok and you got a whole damn page of whoop, and it's stuff that you cannot ignore